Hello, a little bit of an unplanned reaction video this one, so please don't consider this video as part of my 2019 output. That's due to start in a few weeks' time. Now, if you can't tell already, I've just come back from my holidays. In fact, I've been on holiday over the Christmas season. And whilst I was on holiday, the YouTube channel actually got quite a bit of activity. It's gained several thousand subscribers very quickly. And of course, that's a wonderful thing, and I'd like to welcome all of those new subscribers to the channel. In fact, I've spent most of this morning going through all of the comments that have been left, and there have been hundreds of comments, trying to answer them all as I usually do. And I noticed a theme cropping up with some of the questions, and so I thought I'd try and answer them by doing a video to answer those questions specifically. I guess this is the price I have to pay for YouTube algorithm picking up on one of my videos and showing it slightly out of context from the rest of the channel. So I've no problem with that. So this is only going to be a short video to say welcome to the new subscribers. I'll talk briefly about who I am and why you should watch my channel. I'll also mention the OLC game engines, which you've probably seen as part of the 3D Code It Yourself graphics engines series. Regular viewers will have seen much of this before, but I thought a nice channel explanation video, a nice short one, might be quite a useful thing to have. So that's what I'm doing here, and apologies, I'm also full of a cold. Well, my name's JavidX9 and I've been a programmer for over 25 years, and I've been fortunate enough to work on a wide spectrum of projects from both industrial and academic perspectives. And throughout this time period, I've been tutoring and mentoring young adults in programming and systems design. And what I noticed was there was a year-on-year decline on the ability these students were supposed to have had regarding programming. And I was concerned about this because you would expect that in this day and age, with all of the free tools that are available, with all of the free information available on the internet, that you'd expect people to be able to pick up programming quite easily. But that doesn't seem to be the case. In fact, programming is far less accessible now than it was 30 or 40 years ago. You used to be able to just switch a computer on and start typing code. That's no longer the case. There's quite a lot of stuff you have to set up and get working first. And so really that's what this channel is about. I'm trying to address that shortcoming. I make programming videos. A lot of my viewers like to call them tutorials, but I just see them as documented project videos. I try to make videos about algorithms and ideas that are not aimed at a particular audience with a particular set of abilities. And even though I use C++ as the delivery mechanism for most of my video work, I try to engineer the code and show the code in such a way that it is language agnostic. You could implement these ideas in other languages too. And I think this approach works because time and time again, the awesome community surrounding this channel has indeed done just that, and in many cases exceeded the stuff that I present in the videos. And I'll show this occasionally in community showcase specials. Lots and lots of things, and I'm going to deliberately make sure I annoy some of you out there. I want to get people interested in code. I want to demystify what is seen, understandably from an outside perspective, as being quite a complicated topic. It isn't. And what I find often doesn't help are the established guardians of the programming community. When somebody's just starting out and they ask an experienced programmer what seems like a simple question, it's as if that experienced programmer sometimes forgets that at some point they didn't know the answer either. And as such, I try to present things in an accessible way. So, unless absolutely necessary, I don't preach about standards. I don't show the most highly optimized code. I don't show code that is written precisely the way you learned how to do it. And so far, these are tactics I'm going to carry on with because they seem to be received well by the community. I want to show that for most people, programming is fun, productive, rewarding and accessible. If you feel you need to grade other people's programming abilities, then there are other sites you can go to for that. You won't see that here. Well, I suppose there is some truth to this. As the channel has developed and grown over the last 2 years, it became apparent that I really needed a technology or a platform with which I could visualize and interact with the algorithms that I'm trying to show. So when I claim that I'm coding something from scratch, I kind of am, because I've created this library technology that runs in the background, and I've shown that develop over the course of the channel. The fact that you've seen a video in isolation that's using it is unfortunate. There's not much I can do about that now, but long-time viewers of this channel will understand where this technology has come from. But before I show these engines briefly, consider the alternative. How long and boring would the videos be if I always had to show how I'm establishing communication with the GPU, how I'm setting up vertex buffer objects, index buffer objects, vertex attribute objects, and we've not even started to get to the point of the video yet. We're not discussing the algorithm, and it's already become inaccessible. My OLC console game engine and OLC Pixel game engine header files remove this complexity. Now granted, I'm sacrificing performance for the simplicity that these header files provide. These are single file inclusions that establish a game loop and provide a 2D surface of pixels for you to draw to. That is all they do. You include them and you go. This was my first engine for this channel. I wanted an engine that required no additional dependencies on a Windows platform and would work with a minimal install of Visual Studio. It uses the Windows command prompt as its rendering surface, and I love the aesthetic of it, and I equally love the performance of it. It's fast and suitably retro that it fulfills my need for it to be reminiscent of home computing in the 80s. I also provide some rudimentary routines for drawing pixels, which are in this case of course characters. By playing games with the font used by the Windows command prompt, you can emulate a convincing pixel effect, but you also get all the wonderful combinations of the characters themselves. The engine assumes nothing. You provide it with a dimension on startup, it gives you the opportunity to load some resources at the beginning, and then it calls a function that you provide with the code to update each frame. That is all that it does. And I've done 2 additional videos on how to use this engine in your projects. I understand that there are operating systems other than Microsoft Windows. I also understand that some of you prefer to use environments like code blocks. Well, yep, the OLC console game engine.h file in its vanilla form isn't really going to work for you. It is explicitly a Visual Studio in Windows thing. However, I have provided some alternatives, so you could use the OLC console game engine SDL.h file, which emulates a Windows command prompt. You use the file in exactly the same way, and it should run almost all of the programs in my GitHub repository. At this point I'd like to thank the many members of the One Lone Coder Discord community for helping put this together. Well, you probably found this channel via my series on building 3D graphics engines, and it was through that series, and there's a bit of a spoiler alert here if you've not watched part 4 yet, that the limitations of doing things in the console were starting to show. You see, the console only allows limited colours and resolutions, which made doing videos specifically about graphics more about how to do them in the console rather than the graphics algorithms themselves, and this was quite frustrating. I was also getting a bit frustrated at the fragmentation occurring using the OLC console game engine headers. Several versions are available for different operating systems and different compiling environments, and maintaining them all was becoming a bit difficult. Consequently, I developed the OLC Pixel game engine. This provides exactly the same interface and tools as the console game engine and works with the majority of my existing code base. But this time, instead of using characters as a command prompt, it uses real pixels and is full colour. It was also fully developed with being cross-platform in mind, so the same single file runs on Windows, Linux, using MinGW in code blocks, and even works on a Raspberry Pi. Since the interface is so similar to the console game engine, porting over the existing video algorithms is very trivial, and like its predecessor, it requires minimal install setup other than what is included with most build tools by default. In short, it's more powerful, it's fully cross-platform, it's faster, and looks more like a traditional game engine. It's also designed to be extendable, which we'll see a little bit more of this year. The only thing it doesn't do quite as conveniently is display text. No. Well, I'm not a big user of social media, but the community is active around the following outlets. Firstly, there's the 2 YouTube channels, the one you're watching this video on, and there's also JavidX9 Extra, which is a lot less formal. I also like to live stream, but I don't do that on YouTube, I do that on Twitch, and there is quite a large and active Discord server. My main site, onelonecoder.com, which you can see somewhere here, I think, thereabouts. That's sort of my main base, but that's more or less always out of date. And all of the code that I've produced that's seen in any videos is available for download and do what you want with, and that's available on GitHub. And finally, I do have a Patreon where you can buy me a cup of tea in support. Right, so that's that. I appreciate that most of you will already know about the things you've just seen and heard, but I'm hoping that this video will just put things into context for the newcomers. My videos for 2019 will be starting soon enough, so until then, take care.